Welcome to History with Herodotus, where we delve into the most fascinating stories of the past. I'm your host, Herodotus, and I'm thrilled to continue our series, The Lincoln-Douglas Debates. Today's episode, Episode 6, Galesburg and Quincy, transports you to a pivotal moment in American history, as Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas clashed in two critical debates that would shape the future of the Union. As we journey to the town of Galesburg, Illinois, on October 7, 1858, we find ourselves in the midst of a heated campaign season. The air is electric with tension as thousands of people gather to witness the sixth debate between Lincoln and Douglas. The crowd is largely composed of supporters who share Lincoln's opposition to the expansion of slavery, and they are eager to see their champion take on the incumbent senator. On this day, Lincoln found himself on familiar terrain, having spoken in Galesburg several times before. He began by reiterating his commitment to freedom and equality, arguing that the expansion of slavery was not only morally wrong, but also threatened the very foundations of the Republic. Douglas, however, was undaunted, using the opportunity to launch a fierce attack on Lincoln's position. He argued that Lincoln's opposition to slavery was nothing more than a thinly veiled attempt to impose his own moral values on the rest of the country. But Lincoln was ready for this challenge, and he countered by pointing out the inherent contradictions in Douglas's popular sovereignty doctrine. He argued that if the people of each territory were truly free to decide for themselves whether to allow slavery or not, then why did Douglas support the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which had led to the pro-slavery violence in Kansas? The crowd, won over by Lincoln's passion and conviction, erupted into cheers, sensing that they were witnessing something truly historic. Just a few days later, on October 13, 1858, the two candidates faced off again, this time in the town of Quincy, Illinois. Here, Douglas found himself on more hostile terrain, as the crowd was largely composed of Lincoln supporters who were eager to see their champion take down the incumbent senator. But Quincy was also a town with a strong abolitionist presence, and Douglas knew that he had to tread carefully. He began by trying to appease the crowd, arguing that he was not in favor of slavery, but rather in favor of allowing each territory to decide for itself whether to allow it or not. However, Lincoln was quick to pounce on this argument, pointing out that Douglas's position was nothing more than a cleverly disguised attempt to spread slavery into new territories. As the debate progressed, it became clear that Lincoln was gaining momentum, his arguments resonating deeply with the crowd. The audience in Quincy was particularly receptive to Lincoln's message, and they cheered wildly as he argued that the expansion of slavery was a threat not just to the Union, but to the very principles of liberty and equality upon which it was founded. Douglas, on the other hand, found himself struggling to defend his position against Lincoln's relentless attacks. The crowd, sensing a shift in the balance of power, began to rally behind Lincoln, cheering his impassioned pleas for freedom and equality. As we reflect on these two debates, it becomes clear that Lincoln's strategy was paying off. By exposing the contradictions in Douglas's popular sovereignty doctrine and highlighting the dangers of slavery, he was able to gain the upper hand in the campaign. The audiences in Galesburg and Quincy had been won over by his passion and conviction, and it seemed increasingly likely that he would emerge victorious in the election. That's all for today. Join us next time on History with Herodotus as we continue our series on the Lincoln-Douglas debates with Episode 7, Alton Debate.